I played Old School RuneScape for over 450 hours as a brand new player to the game, and was it all worth it? Let's get into it. My name is Jonas, and back in August 2024, I got into Old School RuneScape with my friends as a group Ironman for the very first time, never having played the game before. And since then, I have learned a lot about this game, and I've made quite a decent bit of progress, I feel. So today, we're going to talk a bit about that progress, the things I've learned, and just, was it a good experience overall? But first, of course, if you do enjoy this video, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to my channel to keep up with more Old School RuneScape content. My journey began like many would expect, a very confused new player who had absolutely no idea what he was supposed to be doing. But that all changed when I discovered the Ironman Efficiency Guide, which helped me a lot in the early game, and I do not regret using it. As much as people might say you shouldn't use a guide as a new player, I needed it, honestly, because I just had no idea what I was supposed to do. So of course, because of this, I spent a lot of my early game doing Wintertodt, which, again, if it weren't for the guide, I would not have even known existed, and thank God I did it, because the amount of resources this gave me to give me a head start was so frickin' helpful. But after a few weeks of that, we eventually finished it up, and most of the early game was really just spent questing, because as we all know, the best way to get early skill levels is literally just to quest. And let me tell you, early questing was rough sometimes, because we did not have protection prayers back then, nor did I even know they existed, so I died a lot. And at the time I was still sort of figuring out how to get around the world, so let's just say I did a lot of long corpse runs back then. And of course I had my fair share of noob mistakes early on too, like eating food instead of using it.
Oh my god, bro. Oh, hell no.
But eventually my first big achievement was finally achieved, and I got the easy Ardougne diary done, and oh my goodness, was this huge at the time. Being able to have unlimited teleports to Ardougne was just crazy good. It pretty much cemented Ardougne as my main city for the rest of the game. Even now, the Ardougne bank is like my go-to bank. But life went on and I continued questing and also learned the absolutely miserable experiences of raising cats. God, I still hate doing this. And at this point, still pretty early on, so still a lot of noob mistakes happening, like dropping my Bruma torch down into a cave.
What are you doing? What are you doing? No!
Which I was warned I would not get back, and I for some reason still did it, and I still kick myself for this because I have still not gotten another Bruma torch. And it was also around this time I finally got to take a bit of a break from questing and do some actual skilling methods like blackjacking and barb fishing. And I'll say this was a nice break between quests because, man, back-to-back questing does get rough sometimes. But I will say, blackjacking sucks absolute ass. Like, I solely do Arty Nights nowadays for thieving, which, more on that later. I also started filling out some of my outfits by this point. I got my rogue's outfit, I grinded out my graceful very early on, which I'm very glad that I did, because it is like the set that I spend the most time wearing nowadays. We also got our first 99 in the group when my friend hit 99 mining after doing Motherlode for absolute months. I also really liked that around this time I finally found a consistent money source for myself through Varlamore thieving, and I spent a lot of time doing that. And by this point, thieving was quickly turning into one of my favorite skills, and I even went through the process of unlocking Pyramid Plunder quite early, just because I wanted to open up as many thieving methods as possible. And this was kind of around the time I started diverting from the guide a bit, even though to this day I do still roughly follow it to give me a sense of where I should be at. I really started progressing my own goals, like getting the Xerix Talisman early on, I started doing Giant's Foundry, and things like that. And speaking of those early goals, oh man, unlocking fairy rings was a godsend. I mean, this transportation system is probably the best in the game, which also reminds me of the worst transportation system in the game, hot air balloons. Oh my god, Why is unlocking these things so goddamn painful? But anyways, back to what I was talking about earlier with Arty Nights. This was the time that I finally decided I was ready to make the push for my first 99, so what better skill to do it with than thieving? And Arty Nights with how AFK they are, so I started making my push. But then my ADHD brain kicked in and I got bored of that, so I decided to start pursuing some actual good melee gear. And believe me when I say I went hard on this. I started doing crabs to get my defense, attack, and strength up. I got my Helm of Neteznot. I did Monkey Madness and got my Dragon Scimitar. I got my Dragon Defender. I went all out on this grind. And if you've been following my OSRS Ironman series, you'll know that this was pretty much the last progress update I gave because I got burned the hell out. And I took a few months off the game. I spent some time playing other things like PoE 2, got back into World of Warcraft, things like that. But I am back. And I've been back for a little while now. I have made massive progress in this last month or two. So I'm going to talk about the highlights at the very least. First off, farming. I love farming. This is, without a doubt, my favorite skill in the game now, and I've gotten all the way up to 68 farming by this point. I've also learned how insanely good XP tree runs are, and I actually mostly level through tree runs nowadays. And I actually ignored doing allotments and herbs for quite a long time because I got so annoyed at harvesting them because I constantly had to run back and forth to the bank to deposit it when my inventory would fill up. And you know why? Because I didn't know you could note the items at a leprechaun.
Bruh.
Yeah, felt pretty dumb after that one. Also, speaking of noted items, did not realize you could high elk noted items either. So yeah, I now pay a lot more attention to what I can do with noted things and what I can't. But anyways, once I got to 65 farming, I finally started using the farming guild for medium contracts, and oh my god, I think I love this skill even more now because I just love keeping up on contracts. I don't know why, but it is just a blast. I also finally realized what all these Hespori seeds I've been getting from my seaweed runs are for, and I've finally been farming Hespori now, which honestly has been really fun because it feels like my first real boss fight with mechanics. I also got a bottomless compost bucket on my third kill of Hespori, which at the time I didn't think anything of until I sent it to my friends, and yeah, their reaction kind of spoke for itself. Aside from farming, I have been relatively keeping up on my birdhouse runs for Hunter, but I will say I don't exactly follow a 50-minute timer anymore. I think I really only do 1 or 2 a day at this point. But as for the seaweed runs, ooh, those have fallen off big time. I think I only do that once a week at most now because, I'm sorry, crafting is just so horrible to level on an Ironman. Because believe me, I spent some time doing the sand bucket method to get my crafting to at least 61, and my god, the fact that this is literally the most efficient method to get to 99 crafting, yeah, no. I am never getting this skill to 99. No, thank you. And can we talk about Tears of Guthix for a second? Because my god, I love this minigame. The fact that I've been able to passively level RuneScaping, rune crafting, without even having to do the skill is just fantastic. But also kind of bad because I'm 40-something rune crafting and I still couldn't tell you where more than 2 altars are. Also, since I've been farming so much, I finally had an excuse to level up my Herbalore for once, and let me tell you, having a quite healthy supply of prayer potions and super agility whatever potions has just been life-changing, dude. Aside from that, I did get my construction and my ranged up a little bit as well, but for the most part, I'd say those were kind of the skills I've spent most of my time the last few weeks focusing on. I've also done some quite notable quests, to say the least. One in particular a lot of you have been asking about for quite some time now, and that is One Small Favor. finally did it. And yes, it is just as horrible as you all warned me it would be. Like, I swear to God, just when you think the favors are over, there is yet another favor that someone's asking you. And I naively thought that I wasn't actually gonna have to go back and do all these favors. I thought that would be crazy if that was the case, but no. I had to go back and finish every goddamn favor. And they had the audacity to tell me I took too long to get his axe back to him. He said he could just do it himself. Like, brother. I also powered through and got done the vast majority of my easy and medium diaries because I figured it was just time to get those done and out of the way. And most of them honestly weren't too bad. There was a few grindier ones, like having to kill the 125 chompy birds, which sucked. But then there was also the Fremnik medium, which had me run through this ridiculously sketchy cave. I was getting pretty low on food and potions near the end, so I was kind of getting sketched out a bit. And then there's a few I just straight up didn't do, like the Karamja medium, which has you do this stupid trading stick mini game, so I was just like, hell no. And then the medium wilderness I also didn't really do because, the wilderness kind of sketches me out still. From there, I finally finished all the requirements to finally do Desert Treasure 1, which was also a requirement to finish off RFD, which I had also completed up to that point, so we were finally on track to get our Barrows gloves. And you know what? It wasn't too bad of a quest, to be completely honest. The sketchiest part by far was the whole climbing that ice mountain thing. Oh my god, I can't believe I actually did that shit. I was out of food, out of everything, and I had to still climb quite a ways to go. I was thoroughly convinced I was dead. Like, there was not a doubt in my mind that I was making it all the way through this thing, and yet I somehow did it. The only other slight complication I had was I died to this Damas dude by accident because I didn't realize he was going to drain my prayer so quick. And the ring that I needed to get into this place was on my corpse. So I couldn't exactly get back here. So I had to go back to Death's office and get all my stuff from there. But the rest of the quest was pretty breezy. The pyramid part was kind of stupid because there was like a random chance that you could just randomly trapdoor out of the place. And you had to run through the whole thing, which that's just kind of dumb. Like, why even have that mechanic? That's not even fun. Luckily, I only got trapdoored out once though, so I think my RNG was pretty good, and we finished up the quest. Which means I finally got to do RFD Finale, and let me tell you, these were some fun-ass boss fights. I especially loved the one where you had to kite it and then snare it every few seconds. That one was just so much fun for some reason. But most of them were pretty easy for the most part. I did every single one of them first try, and we finished it up. Which means I finally was able to buy my Barrows gloves. And while you might think that is the highlight of this journey I've been on, it actually isn't, because the biggest highlight of all is I finally got my first 99, baby. Although it took many, many weeks, I already knighted my way all the way to 99 thieving. Unfortunately, we didn't get Rocky along the way, so I am still waiting to get my first pet still. But I can't complain because I am sitting at a quite healthy 4 million GP now, so I'm going to be good money-wise for quite some time. So thank you, Dara, because you are an excellent splasher. So I think it's safe to say I've made some pretty decent progress in OSRS over the past while, and I'm pretty proud of myself because I think I ended off on a pretty good note, getting Barrows gloves and a 99 within the same week. But I think it's safe enough to say at this point, I've officially moved on from noobhood in OSRS and have ascended to the rank of veteran, moderately average player.